The playoff picture is now set in the NFL. The Blue Jays keep making moves, and we start to look back at the year that was 2025. Couch Potato Diary, not so live, but it starts right now. Welcome, everyone, to Couch Potato Diary. My name is Peter Klein. Thank you very much for tuning in today. Happy Monday, happy 2026, and all that comes with that. So today, doing this a little bit, obviously not doing the live thing, feeling a little under the weather, but also have had some just mad technical issues here the last little bit. Looks like everything is going okay for now, so hopefully the show rolls just fine, but just wanted to let you know that there were some issues, so didn't want to tempt the gods and go live just yet, so we'll see what happens down the road. But as always, we're presented by Sea of Dead. Head over to seaofdead403.ca and get that great Calgary swag, and also head over to swiftenergy.gg, use the code PKPrimetime for 25% off. So, like I said, the NFL season is now in the books. We get ready for the postseason. Should be a little bit of fun. Obviously, we're going to do a lot with that as the week goes along, but we will begin by looking at how we got here. It is a recap of Week 18 in the National Football League. So, the NFL regular season has now wrapped up, and with it comes a few huge games. We're not going to go through every game because a lot of them didn't matter, but obviously the last one of the year did. The Baltimore Ravens lose in heartbreaking fashion, 26-24, to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and if you're Baltimore, that's just devastating. Like, just watching that game last night, and I didn't have a major rooting interest. I like the Ravens. I think if the Raiders were to fold up, Baltimore would at least be high up there on teams that I would cheer for. And I don't like the Steelers or Aaron Rodgers or anything like that. So I'm not as invested as a Ravens fan would be, but I'm not entirely neutral either. And even me just watching that game, just a roller coaster of a game where it doesn't look like a whole lot is happening, and then a whole lot starts to happen. And it's set up perfectly the way you would want it to be, with a dead-on field goal within 50 yards from 44 yards away, and the kid just missed it. And there was just a thought in the back of my mind. It was like, man, that was too easy for that. Not easy. It was a phenomenal play by Lamar Jackson on fourth down, but it felt like 13 seconds left to just leave it with a field goal there and not try to advance it any further. I get you don't want to risk a fumble or anything like that in that situation, but It did just feel like, man, not doing anything on that just feels like it messes with whatever karma was going on in this game, or whatever weird voodoo the Steelers have had all season long. We'll get to that in a second. But just a devastating turn of events. Obviously, you feel for the kid who misses the field goal. And for Baltimore, this felt like a lost year anyway. I do feel like Harbaugh deserves some of the weight of this. I think the calls to fire him, that's getting a little extreme. I understand we are getting into Steelers territory of this team making the playoffs a bunch, but not necessarily doing a whole lot with it. But I think that is kind of getting overblown a little bit with them as well. I think with the injuries that this group had and some of the problems that they were dealing with as the season went on, I think to lose Lamar Jackson for 4 games, to fall so far behind in the standings, and to have the injuries on defense that they did, to have it come down to you're in a plus position to make a field goal to win the division and advance to the postseason, that feels like not the coaching job that I would fire someone over. That being said, I'm not going to start lighting tables on fire if they do fire him. If I'm, again, a Raider fan, and Harbaugh gets fired, he moves to the very top of my wish list immediately, and I think that would be basically every team that had a coaching vacancy, and Harbaugh could probably pick his spot on a number of them, but this is not the standard that the Ravens want to set for themselves. It's a couple of years now where the defense hasn't really been as good as you would like it to be, and it's just, they get close and just mess up, whether it's a 2-point conversion, whether it's a Zay Flowers dive into the end zone and the ball gets knocked away from him. Something needs to be elevated there. I think they obviously need to not ignore the defensive side of things. We could say this about a lot of teams. It feels like they could use a number one receiver who can just get open at times. Zay Flowers did that, but that was more what the Steelers didn't do than what Baltimore did do. But I mean, you look at how this game was going, it looked like they were dominating for the first few possessions of the game, and then everyone on defense started getting hurt, and Aaron Rodgers was able to drive down and get some big plays. And just like that, this team is now in a bit of a pickle. So I feel like injuries just didn't go Baltimore's way this season. And even with that, you had a very makeable kick to end the year and it just didn't work. It is devastating, about as devastating a regular season loss as you can get. But I don't think it is one that is terminal for the Ravens. On the Steelers side, like this is just the shoehorn or the horseshoe, season is incredible what they have been able to get. When you look at that, what was it? It was week 1 against the Jets, where the ball bounces like 18 times and just lands in DK Metcalf's lap. And it felt like they had games like that all season long. And now this, like, you go back, they should have lost both against Baltimore. I still don't know how the catch for Likely in the end zone wasn't a catch for a touchdown. And then this one, the voodoo that they put in the end zone with the priest and the holy water before the game. And then when he just yoink in that end zone, like, it just, everything went right for the Steelers in these spots. And look, I don't like giving him credit. I try to not as much as possible. But Aaron Rodgers, against a depleted defense with the Ravens, but still, some big-time plays were made in that fourth quarter to put the Steelers in a position where a missed field goal could go, and all of a sudden, this team is off to the playoffs again. So, I like, credit where credit is due. To get that without DK Metcalf, but again with all the injuries that they were dealing with, it has felt like a very horseshoey type season all year for the Steelers, and it culminates with one of the weirdest finishes that you will see. And now they are understandably underdogs going into their wild card matchup with the Houston Texans. That was not the only win or go home game, although I guess this one didn't really play out that way, as the Carolina Panthers lose the win or go home game and still go on to the playoffs because Atlanta beat New Orleans in just one of the weirder scenarios, that the team is sitting at home, or the teams, sorry, are sitting at home watching, and I don't want to say less than, although they did fire their coach after, but kind of two less than teams are playing, representing the others in an opportunity to get to the playoffs. A very weird scenario. Carolina advances, good for them, like to get that experience to come up with enough wins in the season to get going. That's fine. And I think even if Carolina doesn't get into the playoffs, you would consider this a win season for them. Just a little bit more development, especially on the defensive side. Bryce Young, I still don't think it's there, but it was there more often than it has been in the past. So I guess there is that. But certainly not a ringing endorsement for the current playoff system that they're now going to be hosting a team that everyone had number 1 in their power rankings 2 weeks ago in the LA Rams. But that's how this whole thing is set up. As for that game, like, it's heartbreak for the Bucs because they come out and win a football game on Saturday and then have their season end like that. But again, they had a lot of opportunities to have it not end like that. You think of some of the losses they have. Ibuka drops in the end zone, just some misses. And it was funny, I tweeted it out. Tough to convey this one in 280 characters or whatever it is, but it felt like every time a different group came on the field for the Buccaneers, the announcers had a different way of saying that group was letting them down. Like the offense would come out, well, a lot of Baker dealing with some problems and a lot of drops out there and a lot of turnovers and a lot of issues has really let this team down over the last little bit. And then the defense comes out and it's like, boy, this team just hasn't been able to get the stops they've needed in this last little bit. And it feels like the defense has really let them down. And then the punting unit would come out on either side, return or just the actual punter. Special teams really let this team down over the last little bit, and really a big part of why this team's in the spot they're in. It's like, at some point, maybe they're just bad. I don't think they are. I think they are a substantially better football team than Carolina is, or even Atlanta, who they all end up tied with. But just, again, injuries, which is part of this. Like, that's why you never make, I think, any excuses in the playoffs when a team gets an advantage because someone else gets hurt. It's like, it's a really hard thing to do, to survive from September to now and then beyond, 5 weeks from now for the Super Bowl. That's a really hard thing to put a human body through. So part of this is just survival, and Tampa Bay, for whatever reason, couldn't this year. I think they'll be back. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure now on Todd Bowles as the coach of this team to try to get another gear out of this group, because this should not have been a difficult division for this football team to win, but just an ugly game on Saturday. The rain falling, neither team looked like they could do anything with it, really. Tampa Bay, it felt like they got they had a lot of success early on running the football, and then I don't know if there's like a setting in Madden where it's just, okay, now game plan is locked, because they just wouldn't break off of that for the rest of the game. It's like, well, no, we had success running early on, so now we're just going to hammer the ball at them. And then after 2 possessions, Carolina's run defense woke up and came up with some big spots, but Tampa Bay just kept bashing into that wall over and over again. And you're just dying for this team to try to make any other kind of play. And eventually, again, like I said, they win. But there wasn't a whole lot that gives you confidence about either side coming out of this one. And certainly, I don't think a lot of people are going to be running to the window to be betting on the Carolina Panthers this upcoming weekend. In terms of other things going on, feel happy for Myles Garrett that he gets the sack record. I would feel some kind of way about Joe Burrow kind of sliding there if Brett Favre hadn't done the same thing for Michael Strahan before. And yes, it's different years and all, or not, sorry, different years. Well, it is literally different years, but different amount of games played and everything there. So you can certainly asterisks all you want. To me, season's a season. And if we want to start looking at specifics and all of that, well, I believe Garrett did it in fewer snaps than Strahan. Semantics, really. Record's a record. Myles Garrett, and any season that has been played in the NFL, no one has had more sacks than Myles Garrett. That feels like a record to me. Just one of the more dominant players that this league has. And to do that on a team that's dog shit is really impressive. And when he demanded a trade last offseason, I got so excited because I want this guy playing meaningful football. And so it sucks that, I mean, good for him, get that bag out in Cleveland, but he should still be playing. Like the team that he is on should be in the postseason right now so that we get to watch him play as a defensive football player more and more. He is that good and one of certainly the greats of his time, and will go down as one of the better defensive players in the history of the National Football League. And now I think for Cleveland, you have not that this is a surprise. He's been an all-time great type of a player for a long time, but you have this all-time great. You have a defense that felt like it kind of got back on track this season, and you have at least a couple of things to build around on the offensive side of the football, whether it be with Judkins or Fannin. There's at least a little bit of talent there. There's some pressure now to start actually, again, building here in Cleveland, because it's a waste. It's a waste of an all-time talent. And it's really, and this organization's done that now twice with Joe Thomas on the offensive line and now Myles Garrett on the defensive line. Last thought from the NFL this week, all the seeding drama and everything that was going on, the Eagles arrested their players and this, that, or the other thing. I feel like the seeding thing is fun for us to talk about. I don't think NFL teams really think it that way. Just not that I'm in NFL locker rooms or anything like that, but I've been around my share of professional athletes and hearing about them talking about games and everything like that. I don't think for 1 second that any NFL team is going in saying, okay, well, if we lose this or if we win this, well, now we have an easier path to this, that, and the other thing. And if we lose this game, well, now it gets a little bit more difficult. So we should da-da-da-da-da. They're focused on just what they can do. So I think the suggestion that they should have brought the starters in or played the starters in this game so they could get a better seed or anything like that, unless it's the 1 seed and you get a bye, I don't see that being the case. And this group, say what you will about how this season has gone for the Philadelphia Eagles, but they are the defending Super Bowl champions. And Sirianni, while he can be a little out there, he is still someone who I think has a decent read on his locker room anyway, and if nothing else, knows when his guys need rest and which guys he can rest and which guys he can't. So I think you just have to trust the Eagles in this. And if they go out and lose this week, I don't think it's going to be because they did the bye thing. I just think it's been a weird season for them. I feel like that is a fan thing more than it is a team thing. And maybe teams should focus on that kind of thing a little bit more, trying to get different matchups and this, that, or the other thing. But especially in football, I don't see that really being the mentality of many teams out there. Even with the Giants costing themselves like 6 positions in the draft. It's just, you can like sit different guys and all of that. Football is a really hard sport to tank in because, again, you do need a level of physical buy-in when you're playing this thing. And to ask a guy to go out there for 16 weeks and bust it because he needs to win or all of these things, and then in the last game of the season, it's, you know what, we're going to sit this one so we can get a better draft pick that might replace you. That's an easy way to lose a lot of people and a bit of a loser mentality. We have seen a lot of instances where maybe you should have stuck with those things, but that's just not the way that these work. And so I was surprised at how many people reacted the way they did to the Eagles situation and the Bears and everything like that. So I in those instances, I trust the teams to know which guys need their starters rested, which ones don't, and who's going to play well after sitting for a week and who isn't, and put themselves in the best position that way, instead of trying to finagle it to maybe get a better matchup. That's just how I kind of see all that playing out in the NFL. So those are my thoughts. Where are you on any of that? Should the Eagles focus more on getting the 2 seed, or are you with me and it's just like, football teams will just let the chips fall where they may? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you could help me out by sharing this video, that would go a long way as well. Hit that share button to share this with all your NFL fan friends so we can keep the conversations going here. Again, a lot more talk on the NFL coming up on Couch Potato Diary later this week. Let's move to the world of baseball now. The Toronto Blue Jays were within inches a few times of being World Series champions, and they are trying to spend their way into that final inch or so as they have made big move after big move. And the most recent one, a little out of nowhere, maybe even a little out of left field. Who knows? A lot of different conversations are happening around this Blue Jays team, but one thing is for sure, this team's going to be very interesting next season, and even very interesting in the next week or two. The Toronto Blue Jays have signed Kazuma Okamoto to a 4-year, $60 million contract. It adds another layer of intrigue to an already really interesting Blue Jays offseason. When you think of the moves that Toronto has made already in bringing in Cease and Ponce and Rogers and now Okamoto, this is a really, really, really interesting ball club, and one that has always been aggressive around this time of year. They just haven't been able to get across the finish line with a lot of these moves, and now they are hoping that doing that with these helps them get across the baseball finish line. The Blue Jays weren't really talked about in the Okamoto sweepstakes until a couple of days ago, or a couple of days before, sorry, the signing went down, and now you see it, and it just makes all the sense in the world. This dude makes a ton of contact. He has quite a bit of power, pulls the ball in the air a ton, and doesn't strike out. All of those just are screaming red lights everywhere. Blue Jay, Blue Jay, Blue Jay, Blue Jay, Blue Jay. That, like, he feels like the perfect Toronto Blue Jay, and feels like the exact type of a player that they would be looking for. He has been just an absolute power producer in Japan. Injuries kind of hampered that last season, but aside from that, this dude has been hitting the heck out of a lot of baseballs out in Japan. So we've seen that doesn't always translate directly at the Major League Baseball level, but you can certainly also see a lot of times where it does. And so, like, do the Jays need him to come in and be a 30 home run hitter guy or anything like that? I mean, it would help, but I think he is just another one just kind of raising the floor a little bit of what this Blue Jays team is. The bigger conversation around this, though, is basically what's next coming off of it. What does it mean for Toronto's pursuit of Kyle Tucker or Bo Bichette? I don't think it takes him out of either of those markets. I think it gets very confusing to put the lineup together if they go for both, and obviously incredibly expensive. But that's kind of always where it has been, is that this Blue Jays team, that they're going to be in on Tucker, they're going to be in on Bichette, but it was always a real long shot to get both of them. But because Okamoto can play some left field or third base, he kind of played like, oh, if they get Bo, all right, he's out in left field. If they get Tucker, all right, he's the third baseman. I've seen some people saying like, why does it take them out of both? The only thing is money, and again, all that's made up in baseball anyway for now. And some talk like, yeah, Ernie Clement or Andres Jimenez, like, hey, appreciate all your contributions. Going to be one of the best platoons the Jays have at shortstop, and let Bo kind of come in and do his thing, and Tucker in the outfield, and Okamoto at third base, and all these different things, or talking about Santander deals or anything like that. But I don't think Santander gets moved. I don't think they're going to platoon Clement and Jimenez, and I don't think they're going to get both Tucker and Bo Bichette. And this one kind of locks in that that's not going to be the case. I did my predictions a little bit ago and said that I thought Tucker was going to go to the Mets and Bichette was going to stay with the Blue Jays. I still think that. I know it makes you a little lefty heavy with the Mets, but I feel like they are really desperate now to spend some money, given how the reaction to everything has kind of gone. And I just feel like this is a team that is going to, at the end of the day, be like, all right, fuck it, $150 million and however long you want, and we'll just figure it out. Like that kind of feels to me like where the Mets are at this point. And then Bo Bichette, I think Toronto at that point, it's like, okay, what's the best offer you have? All right, here's an extra $10 million. Just come on home. And Toronto gets it done that way. So I feel like that's probably the case with how this plays out. But you look at how the Jays lineup sits at this exact moment, before that market plays itself out. I took a shot at kind of stacking up the lineup right now. And I think the Blue Jays will probably go a little bit more platoon heavy than I have it at this particular time. But for now, it's Springer DHing. I put Clement batting second. We don't have to debate about the lineup order right now. It's just that. Vladdy in the 3-hole, Santander cleaning things up, Alejandro Kirk batting fifth, and then Addison Barger or Davis Schneider, probably the platoon out in right field and splitting time that way. I think when it's Barger, this is how the order would be, and if it's Schneider, he's probably behind the next one, who is Okamoto playing third base and batting seventh. 8 would be Varsho, 9th would be Jimenez. Again, we can debate the order or anything all we want. Two lefties at the bottom of the order, all of that. This was just kind of thrown together just to prove a point that this is a good lineup as it sits right now. Baltimore probably has a better one in the division, and obviously Aaron Judge makes the Yankees lineup a little bit scary, but Toronto has dealt with that before. But you look at 1 through 9 and you just feel confident again at what this Blue Jays team is. And if Santander can have the bounce back season that a lot of people are hoping he can, then this is a terrifying lineup with guys who can beat you up and down the lineup. And if you add a Bo back into that mix, or if you add a Kyle Tucker into that mix, then we're talking about best lineup in baseball when you can already make the debate of at least the best pitching staff in the American League. So this is, again, an aggressive offseason for the Blue Jays, and it is one move away from being like all-time great ones. Does that mean anything? It does not. We have seen before when the Jays made that gigantic trade with the Marlins before the 2013 season. I will remind you, no one talks about the 2013 Blue Jays. I thought they were locked when Johnson and Burley, Jose Reyes in that deal as well. And then they go out and add R.A. Dickey, the guy who won the Cy Young Award the year before. Like, okay, this Blue Jays team is taking off. Obviously, they didn't for a couple more years. But winning the offseason does not mean they win a championship. But I don't think there is any debate that this baseball team is better than the one that was moments away from winning the World Series in 2025. So phenomenal work from the Blue Jays. Okamoto, I think, is a nice surprise. The other part of it is it takes him out of the Bregman business. That was not a contract I wanted to deal with. I get that he had a bounce back year this year with Boston. I am not trusting that that's going to age particularly well. Good baseball player. And if he ended up on the Blue Jays, I probably would have talked myself into it. But I'm happy I don't have to now. I'd much rather Okamoto had a really reasonable contract as well. But what do you guys think? Could they still get Tucker or Bo? Is there another move that I'm not seeing with this team? And did you like the Okamoto signing? Let me know in the comments down below. Normally, we stream these shows live on a few different platforms. Didn't do that today, but normally we stream this live on YouTube, Twitch, and Kick. All the different handles and everything up on the screen for you, or if you're listening after the fact, they are all linked in the show notes. Let's now take a look at a big thing happening in the hockey world. Sidney Crosby, heard of him, very good hockey player. He has reached milestone after milestone and kind of checked every box that you would want for him. And we are coming down to the last bit, whether it's the last year or two, last game or a few, or whatever it is. But the career is certainly winding down. And it has me thinking, what is Sidney Crosby's place in history right now in the National Hockey League? Let's take a look at what Sid the Kid has done and where that might put him in the all-time NHL lore right now. The newest all-time leader in points for the Pittsburgh Penguins is Sidney Crosby, as he passed Mario Lemieux in all-time Penguin scoring a couple of weeks ago. And it has me wondering now where this guy ranks all-time in history, right? Like, he is on one of a handful of teams where he is not the automatic best to have ever done it with that team. And you can make a case, right? Like Mario, one of the best players of all time. Crosby, I don't know if it's just because we're watching it in time and we don't appreciate it or what. I don't know if he gets talked about in those circles as much as maybe he should. 3-time Stanley Cup champion, 2-time Hart Trophy winner, 4-time NHL first team All-Star, not the ones that the fans vote on, but like the end of the year, like all first team, and then all second team as well. Currently, as I'm recording this, 8th in points all time, and could pass Steve Yzerman and Marcel Dion by the time this season is done. And I really do think you have to look at this Sid the Kid. I think you have to look at this guy now as one of the best to have ever done it. Like, I think an easy top 10 for him at this point. To me, Mount Rushmore right now is Gretzky, Howe, and Lemieux. I do still think he is behind him. Like, I think, like I said before, I think you could make a case that Crosby could have passed Lemieux as the greatest Penguin of all time, but just saying that doesn't feel right. You know, like, obviously points-wise, he passed him, so there's that. But there's a feel to it that just doesn't click there, right? Like, that, as I'm saying that feels like something you watching would get upset about. You know? So just from a feel standpoint, it doesn't feel like Crosby has passed Lemieux. And so then to put him with Orr, Howe, and Gretzky is a difficult thing to do. But it's tough to put him much further down than those guys when, again, you look at the resume and what this guy has done. Just an incredible career. And again, like, limited at times with some concussion problems and all of that. And he wasn't here at a time where the goals were all the way down like it was pre-lockout or anything like that. Like, he comes in at a time where they've eased up on it a little bit, but there was still some down goal scoring times. And he's still able to put up massive numbers compared to guys who were out there when games were 8-2 and goalies were wearing cardboard for goalie equipment. And 3 Stanley Cups, with some longevity there too, right? Like, he'd been to a couple more also, but it wasn't just, he had a great start to his career, now it's kind of faded off. He has been good even to this exact moment in time. And a couple of Stanley Cups after the run that they had early when they were competing with the Red Wings in the Cup final every year. Like, he is another one where you could divide his career in half and you'd get 2 Hall of Fame careers. And again, the international stuff gets a little limited because of NHL's lack of involvement in those sorts of things, but an all-time moment with the golden goal in 2010. So I feel like you are watching one of the all-time greats, and it really drives home, we need to get this guy playing big games again, whether it's the Penguins in the playoffs or not. This guy can still play at a really, really high level. I know a lot of people in Colorado, a lot of people in Montreal would like to see him on their teams as they make a push towards a championship, but I feel like we need to get this guy in the playoffs with a legitimate chance to win a Stanley Cup. And I don't think if he leaves, if he does the Ray Bourque, obviously a bit of a difference there because Ray Bourque had none and this guy has 3. But if he does that, I don't think it affects the legacy even a little bit going forward. So I just, it was something that kind of caught my eye. Like, wait a minute, where do I have him all time right now? So probably next time there's going to be a lull in me doing hockey stuff. Or me doing podcast stuff, we'll probably throw that out as a top 10 players of all time in NHL history. And Sidney Crosby, he's going to be on that list. And he's probably going to be pretty high up given the amount of accomplishments that we have seen. And I feel like as someone who came in with all that hype, he has lived up to it. And it's funny because he was talked about always, and he was on every national this and every commercial that and this, that, and the other thing. And now that there's been kind of this new wave coming in, and the Penguins have admittedly kind of faded off into obscurity, I think it is now kind of to a point where we're under discussing how good this guy has been for his entire hockey life. And yeah, I think there's like a top 5 case that could be made for this guy and just how good he has been as an NHL player for as long as he has done it. Where do you guys have him ranked? Where is Sidney Crosby all time? Am I being just a little bit too cautious and not putting him ahead of Mario Lemieux in Penguins all-time lore? Or do I have that one right? Let me know down in the comments. I'm sure no one will be shy on things like this because Sidney Crosby and all-time lists really do get people fired up. If you want these in podcast form, well, you're in luck. They're there. You can listen to Couch Potato Diary on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. It was a phenomenal year for Couch Potato Diary, and really looking to hit the ground running here in 2025. So a little frustrating that obviously feeling a little under the weather, but I'm trying to get going as much as we possibly can. It is now time for our year in review. Obviously wanted to get this done a little bit sooner, but no time like the present to look at the past. The NHL season was a very interesting one, but it ended the same as the year did before, albeit with a lot of intrigue throughout it. And now this year, this season anyway, so far, has certainly confused a lot of these awards. Let's take a look at what happened in the calendar year 2025 as I do my first year in review. So, it is now time to hand out the awards for the 2025 NHL year. So this is not just for this season or just for last season. This is what happened from Jan 1 to December 31st, 2025. We will start with worst front office move. And to me, the worst front office move 2025 was the Toronto Maple Leafs not being able, I mean, this is obviously a bigger one, but just either not being able to build around Mitch Marner or not being able to fill in after he left. Toronto was in a very not great spot heading into 2026. And I'm not saying like Marner was the be all end all, but he certainly checks a lot of boxes that Toronto kind of needs on their 2025-2026 team. And to have the amount of talent that this group had for as long as they did and not be able to get to even a conference final is staggering. And now you knew he was going to leave. Like that was pretty well set in stone for a bit. To not be able to backfill behind him and now have a pretty subpar roster aside from the incredible talent you have at the top of it is, to me, the worst front office move of 2025 in the National Hockey League. The best front office move was Brad Marchand to the Florida Panthers. And I guess kind of a subplot to the biggest story of the year, or I guess the theme of 2025 to me is that the vets can still play, because we saw a number of kind of old dudes have an impact in the 2025 playoffs, and the Florida Panthers go on another run. They're back-to-back Stanley Cup champions. I don't know if they get there without Brad Marchand. He was a very key part of this Panthers team in the postseason, and it just the second that move was made, it felt like, okay, this is working. This makes all the sense in the world. And that is a front office that knows what the team's identity is, knows what they needed, and knows what will fit, and went out and made that the smartest move, I thought, of the 2025 year was Brad Marchand going to the Florida Panthers. The sack of potatoes, the worst team of 2025, the Nashville Predators. They made a ton of moves to go out and try to just like really plant their flag in the Central Division and in the NHL as a high-level team. And for 365 days, this team was doo-doo. And you look at where everyone else is, like at the bottom of the NHL right now. Like the Canucks had a bit of a bad year, and obviously trading Quinn Hughes toward the end here doesn't help a whole lot. But I still think Nashville was worse. The Flames at least were battling for a playoff spot. The Sabres just won 10 in a row or whatever it was just a little bit ago. At least, like, there has at least been signs of life from basically every other team except for the Preds. So to me, they were the easiest for the worst team of the year. The baby potato, the rookie of the year for this year was Matthew Schaefer. Obviously, he's just a rookie. The ones from last year fit into the category as well. But he was great. Like he has played his way. It takes a lot to play yourself into the hearts and minds of everyone to try to make Hockey Canada as an 18-year-old as a defenseman in the NHL on the New York Islanders. But the skill that he has shown and the way he's been able to elevate things with the Islanders, he was, to me, a lock for Rookie of the Year for 2025. The rotten potato, the disappointment of the year, we talked about it before, the Toronto Maple Leafs. We don't have to go much further into it. They gave it one last go with the core four. It didn't work. They get basically nothing from Marner and had a very, very bad start to the 2025-26 season. So they were the disappointment of the year for me. Choke of the year, it's one of the great comebacks that you'll see, but the St. Louis Blues falling in Game 7, like they had a chance to put the Jets away and kind of move on. And well, not just kind of move on. And so to lose that game with seconds to go on a pass that goes the entire width of the ice for a one-timer, amazing moment for the Jets, but a pretty big choke for the Blues. And now they're in a really tough spot with their roster and with how things are going with that hockey team at this particular time. The biggest story of the year, there are some other ones that maybe could have fit into this, but as you will note in a little bit, it gets pretty heavy on that topic. So for me, biggest story of the year was Alex Ovechkin setting the goal record. Like Wayne Gretzky hit so many records that you just didn't think were ever going to fall. And Ovechkin came in and it was a phenomenal chase that we kind of thought would get derailed because the guy literally broke his leg. But for him to be able to come back and still set that record, one of the cool moments of 2025 in any sport. Coach of the year, Paul Maurice, leading that Panthers team to another championship. There wasn't anyone who I thought you could really put that on. Comeback of the year, Gabriel Landeskog. The timing of this sucks. As I'm recording this, he goes down with the injury last night for Colorado. But to battle back the way he did and get into any kind of playing shape for the Avalanche, they could trust him in the playoffs and now a regular part of the lineup this year. Just a really, really cool story. Moment of the year, 3 fights in 9 seconds at the Four Nations. It's just, we don't get fights a whole lot. It was a tournament that captivated people, I think, way more than everyone was expecting it to. And this was just an exclamation mark on it. And just like okay, this is back. And it caught the entire sporting world's attention. The Kachucks have a podcast and are Miami Vice because of it now. So yeah, that one to me was a lock. North Star of the year, the Canadian of the year. I just put Canada at the Four Nations. Hockey, kind of tough. So Canada at the Four Nations. That was not a perfect performance, but again, championship winning, captured everyone's attention. Unbelievable year. So they get the overall pick for me there. The fully loaded baked potato, the game of the year. Obviously, the gold medal game, Canada against the U.S. At the Four Nations, or the championship game, or whatever you wanted to call it. The drama of overtime, all the chances. Binnington comes up with the amazing saves, and then the big moment for Connor McDavid, finally getting a championship victory at the professional level, albeit in an exhibition tournament. But again, it felt like this team and this tournament captivated people in a way that no one was really expecting it to. And it put a lot of heat on the NBA, and it got a lot of people's attention. And I think this game really was the perfect exclamation mark for that. Team of the year, you can't go with anyone but the Florida Panthers. I know the start of this season hasn't been as dominant because of all the injuries and everything that they are dealing with, but back-to-back Stanley Cup wins, an excellent performance in the playoffs. you can't give it to anyone else. Mashed potato MVP, the player of the year. I'm going Nathan MacKinnon. Sidney Crosby or not Sidney Crosby, sorry. Connor McDavid obviously making an incredible push here at the end. And so maybe it probably should go to him. I did admittedly put this all together before McDavid went on just an absolute tear at the end of the year to catch up to McKinnon in points. But Colorado with such an amazing season here at the back part of 2025, and McKinnon doing everything he did with Colorado last season as well. To me, he was the player of the year for 2025 in the NHL. I can't imagine I just won through the end, nailed it 100%, and you all agree with me. So let me know in the comments where you agree and disagree with me on that one. All right, that is going to do it for the show today. I think you can hear the voices starting to go, so I should go. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Again, you can check out seaofdead403.ca, get all that great Calgary swag on you now that we're into 2026. Head over to Swift Energy, swiftenergy.gg. Use the code PKPrimetime for 25% off. I can't guarantee we're going to go live tomorrow, but we are absolutely going to have a podcast out for you guys tomorrow. And then Wednesday, I am back on Sportsnet 960 The Fan in the morning. So check me out there, 6 o'clock a.m. on Sportsnet 960 The Fan out here in Calgary. Thank you guys so much for hanging out today. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, follow me on social media. I am at Primetime Klein, and I'll talk to all of you later.